why we were not making progress towards sending people to Mars, why we didn't have a base on the moon. Where are the sort of space hotels that were promised in 2001, the movie? Where are the sort of space hotels that were promised in 2001, the movie?
Dave, do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
No, not at all.
I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
How do you mean?
Rumors about something being dug up on the moon. I never gave these stories much credence, but particularly in view of some of the other things that have happened, I find them difficult to put out of my mind. I find them difficult to put out of my mind.
Can we build machines like us? So, building machines like us might be possible. I certainly believe it is. Steve Jurvetson has been a longtime friend and investor in the company, and for those of you who don't know him, he's a Silicon Valley investor who's probably the smartest VC that I know of, and certainly the one that's the most attuned to technological trends. He's on the board of SpaceX, Tesla. He's on the board of SpaceX, Tesla, Synthetic Genomics, which is Craig Venter's company that's trying to build artificial life, and D-Wave, and that's it. And this is his particularly poetic way of framing the difference between the machines we build and conventional computers. This is what they look like. There are two of them. These are from our lab in Burnaby in British Columbia. From the outside, they look like giant black monoliths, big metal boxes. You have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines. It is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are.
You see, the movie was not meant for the profane, as most of us are called, by the adepts or the initiates or the priests of the mystery schools. For that movie was a message to those initiates who were well versed in the symbology and the mystery religion of an ancient religion that is practiced to this day in secret. Now I'm going to tell you the meaning of the symbology that you saw in the movie 2000, beginning to the first primitive human, probably sitting on his haunches, munching upon some vegetable, watching the sunrise in the east. In the beginning of the movie 2001, most people who sat in the theater were struck by the imagery which was presented to them, as they saw first a dark and gray and ugly world. And as that world began to move down from the center of the screen, they saw behind it a moon. And as the moon began to come down with the world that was sinking to the lower part of the screen, behind it you saw the emergence of the sun. What you were witnessing was an eclipse of the sun, partial eclipse. And as the light from the sun spilled across the edge of the moon, it took the shape of the boat of Isis. And the sun, of course, for anyone who has studied the Osirian cycle, became Osiris. And the symbology was Osiris riding across the heavens upon the boat of Isis. Now this will all have much deeper meaning to you as we progress toward your education in the ancient mystery schools.
To voice print identification. When you see the red light go on, would you please state in the following order your destination, your nationality, and your full name?
Moon, American, Floyd, Haywood R.
Thank you. You are cleared through voice print identification.
Thank you.
Quite frankly, we have had some very reliable intelligence reports that quite a serious epidemic has broken out into Clavis.
I know there have been some conflicting views held by some of you regarding the need for complete security.
Something apparently of an unknown
However, I accept the need for absolute secrecy. However, I accept the need for absolute secrecy in this.
This is in fact what has happened.
I'm really not at liberty to discuss this.
We thought it might be the upper part of some buried structure, so we excavated out on all sides, but unfortunately we didn't find anything else.
And hasn't been covered up by natural erosion or other forces. It seems to have been deliberately buried.
4-million-year-old black monolith has remained completely inert, except for a single, very powerful radio emission.
3 weeks ago, the American spacecraft Discovery 1 left on its half-billion-mile voyage to Jupiter.
The sixth member of the Discovery crew was the HAL 9000 computer.
Everything is going extremely well.
One gets the sense that he is capable of emotional responses.
Well, hell, I'm damned if I can find anything wrong with it.
No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information.
Look, Dave, I can't put my finger on it, but I sense something strange about it.
Just a moment. Just a moment.
Do you know what happened?
I'm sorry, Dave. I don't have enough information.
Made radio contact with him yet?
The radio is still dead.
Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? You read me, Hal?
Do you read me, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. We are all foolproof and incapable of error.
The beehive and bees are a prominent symbol in the mystery schools. It signifies societal cohesion. Industry. Now, not industry as you may know it in the manufacture of cars, but industry in working together in a societal form. In this case, the very basic rudiments of society. And as the sun again began to rise up in the east, signifying the dawn of the new man, the audience beheld an obelisk, a monolith. In front of the cave are the womb from which the apes emerged. And it appeared that the humming of the bees was emanating from this block of stone. Now notice I said 3 words, monolith, obelisk, and stone. All of these are significant symbols in the ancient mystery religions. And you saw that this was not God, because creation had already taken place. The world had been created. Plants and animals had been created, and primitive man existed on the earth before this monolith, this obelisk, this stone ever made its appearance. It is also known as the stone that you saw earlier, the generative force, or the penis. Now don't get all confused by this terminology. It will begin to make sense to you as we go along. It took me many years of study to understand what I am now imparting to you. You watched as the apes milled about in great excitement, and one encouraged by another, signifying Adam and Eve. The one encouraging was the symbol of Eve. The one being encouraged was Adam, until he actually reached out and touched the face of the stone, and he was imparted intellect. You could tell that something significant had happened because the tone and the general volume of the music changed at that point. And then the other apes began to touch and rub the statue. Now, most people that I knew attributed what happened to some extraterrestrial force. And they were receiving the exoteric interpretation, or that which is meant for the profane, those who are not illumined and cannot understand what it is they are seeing. But for the initiated, what they witnessed was the creation of the world by God, and the impartation of knowledge to man, the forbidden knowledge, by Lucifer through his agent, Satan.
You've heard some of the completely unexplainable stories about the moon. They're the strange structures that made front-page news of major news publications, but were then dismissed from all media and even photoshopped out of photos. There are the strange lunar wave videos of recent years, which seem to show the moon's image actually jumping as though it were a projected hologram. And you only need to search YouTube to see hundreds of entirely credible videos of strange lights, flurries, and unidentified flying aircraft departing and landing on the surface of the moon. Yet, the U.S. supposedly quit landing on the moon almost 50 years ago, in 1973. Was our every scientific question answered? Why are all these credible testimonies ignored or dismissed? Could there be more to that ball in the sky than meets the eye?
It's an event on the moon of which we have relatively little understanding at this time, but no, you won't see tackle for a little bit. Things that are taking place even at the present time. Understanding that early history of the moon may mean an understanding of the early history of the Earth. And I think we're well on our way to a first-order understanding of that history as a result of the program.
17 Houston, you just passed 2,000 miles.
2,000 miles. Human beings don't very often have a chance to see.
Number one, the idea for what this would eventually become actually started brewing before Washington was elected president. It goes back to 1783. That conversation we had at the top, hey, Washington, this is pretty cool. Yeah, fully, let's build something about it. That did happen way back in 1783, and the thing wasn't finished until 1888. 1888.
There's a total of 88 lighting instruments. 44 in each array for the north and south towers, and the look is not exactly the same. The footprint is not exactly the same, but the beams together sort of emulate the original footprint. Each instrument is about 8,000 watts, which is a lot.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Maybe you can interpret this. This is a strange one. 88, practice the drill or test. What does that mean? At Miami Hilton, at Biscayne, and 17th Street, May sins, S-I-N-S. Do not attempt to to use intimidation on our movement. Our patience will expire. Triumph of Our Lady and good success, Fatima and Guadalupe. Compels you demons. Your head is crushed. HH, Scottish rights in Miami is not rights of yours. Likeness to the universe, a perfection of form and proportion glowed in the heart of the builder and guided his arms. There's something in masonry called the golden section. It's architecture, but I'd like to just show you something. See if I can find you a good image of it. The golden section, it looks like this. The way a fern opens up, the way a flower opens up. Man is instinctively drawn to that shape. There are many shapes that man is drawn to, and those are used in architecture. All this is all about drawing you, not just the shapes, but the idea. When Wren, philosopher as he was, decided that the delight of man in setting up columns and buildings was acquired through worshiping in the groves of the forest. You know, someone on Facebook asked me a question, I can't remember her name, but notice Comey was in that forest with those big trees. And maybe you can remember what he wrote. Maybe look it up. But she mentioned that. She said, that reminds me of Comey, who I believe is a Mason. The delight of man in setting up columns was acquired through worshiping in the groves of the forest, and modern research has come to much the same view. Sir Arthur Evans shows that in the first European age, columns were gods. All over Europe, the early morning of architecture was spent in the worship of great stones. Very early, it became an emblem of truth. Speaking of the column, the cube. The earliest known structure actually discovered, a prehistoric tomb found in the sands at Hierakonpolis, is already right-angled. As Letheby reminds us, modern people take squareness very much for granted as being a self-evident form, but the discovery of the square was a great step in geometry. It opened a new era in the story of the builders. Masons are called the builders. Early inventions must have seemed like revelations, as indeed they were, and it is not strange that skilled craftsmen were looked upon as magicians. If man knows as much as he does, the discovery of the square was a great event to the primitive mystics of the Nile, Egypt. Very early, it became an emblem of truth, the square, right? Justice and righteousness, and so it remains to this day, though unaccountable ages have passed. Simple, familiar, eloquent, it brings from afar a sense of the wonder of the dawn, and it still teaches a lesson which we find it hard to learn. So also the cube, the compasses, and the keystone, each a great advance for those to whom architecture was indeed building touched with emotion, as showing that its laws are the laws of the eternal. Buildings touched with emotion. Churches, yes, someone said that. Let's see. Terry Vine says they're doing all they can to make us Jews even in our church. Oh, come on. Come on, you got to remember. There are two types. I can't even. The Jews split up, right? So Jesus Christ was a Jew. The tribe of Judah. You got the north and south tribes. One was for idolatry, one was not. You got the Jews who worship the Kabbalah, and you got the Jews who worship the Torah, and you got Christians who, I bless the Jews. Bless the Jews. Those who do not bless the Jews will be cursed. Okay, Terry, she says, I'm talking about Zionists. You need to make that clear. A Jew, you need to make that clear, please. And there's two types of Zionists, the ones that put Christ on the cross and ones who took him down. So please make that clear. I apologize, but you got to make it clear. Jordan Falkowski, Jews. It's not the Jews, ladies and gentlemen. It's not the Jews. If you think it's the Jews, you don't understand what's going on. You think you do, but you don't. And if you don't like me saying that, you know what to do. Exit out of here. Right, here you go. How well they realized their dream is shown in the pyramids. What was their dream? On how to rule people, how to know how to rule people. Of all the monuments of mankind, the oldest, the most technically perfect, the largest, and the most mysterious. Ages come and go. Empires rise and fall. Philosophies flourish and fail, and man seeks him out many inventions. We are talking about Babylonians, not Jews. But John, that's where they came from. Come on. Ages come and go, empires rise and fall, philosophies flourish and fail, and man seeks him out many inventions. But they stand silent under the bright Egyptian night, as fascinating as they are baffling. An obelisk is simply a pyramid, albeit the base has become a shaft, holding aloft the oldest emblems of solar faith, of sun worship. A triangle mounted on a square. When and why this figure became holy, no one knows, save as we may conjecture that it was one of those sacred stones which gained its sanctity in times far back of all recollection and tradition, like the Kaaba at Mecca. You know, if you want to curse the Jews, if you want to curse them, look at your life. Look at your life and how it's going. You need to know this, that the Lord said that if you curse the Jews, he will curse you. An Israelite is not a Jew. A Jew comes from the tribe of Judah. It's different. Just because they're from Israel doesn't make them Jews. You curse Israel, same thing. Oh, Sean, the Masons put that in the Bible. You don't know what you're talking about. When and why this figure became holy, no one knows. Here you go. Save as we may conjecture that it was one of those sacred stones which gained its sanctity in times far back of all recollection and tradition, like the Kaaba at Mecca. Whether it be an imitation of the triangle of zodiacal light seen at certain times in the eastern sky at sunrise and sunset, or a feat of masonry used as a symbol of heaven as the square was an emblem of earth, no one may affirm. In the pyramid text, the sun god, when he created all the other gods, is shown sitting on the apex of the sky in the form of a phoenix, the supreme god, to whom two architects, Suti and Hor, wrote so noble a hymn of praise. White with the worship of ages, ineffably beautiful and pathetic, is the old light religion. Light, L-I-G-H-T, sunlight religion of humanity, a sublime nature mysticism in which light was love and life, and darkness, evil, and death. For the early man, light was the mother of beauty, the unveiler of color, the elusive and radiant mystery of the world, and his speech about it was reverent and grateful. At the gates of the morning he stood in uplifted hands, and the sun shrinking in the desert at eventide made him wistful in prayer, half fear and half hope, lest the beauty return no more. His religion, when he emerged from the night and of animalism, was a worship of the light. Darkness was terrifying. You're laying in your hut at night. Animals would come in and eat you. I mean, they took the day for granted. They loved the daytime because that's when they were safe. At night you couldn't see the panther stalking you are getting ready to pounce. His religion, when he emerged from his temple, his religion, when he emerged from the night of animalism, that's animals ruled the night, ladies and gentlemen. Men ruled the day until the light bulb was invented. When he emerged from the night of animalism, was a worship of the light. His temple hung with stars, his altar a glowing flame, his ritual a woven hymn of night and day. No poet of our day, not even Shelby, has written lovelier lyrics in praise of the light of Lucifer than those hymns of El-Qatan in the morning of the world. Memories of this religion of the dawn linger with us today in the faith that follows the day star from on high. The day star, Satan. And the Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, the Son of Righteousness, S-U-N, one who is the light of the world in life, and the lamp of poor souls in the night of death.
That's when it officially opened to the public, and spoiler, that's not what it was supposed to look like. You can see how construction came and went based on the different colors of the stone used in the quarry. You'll see it's lighter at the bottom, darker at the top, because their pause was so long in construction that they could not use stone from the same quarry. Number two, what was it supposed to look like? This is a weird thing. All right, so originally the design was something called a pantheon. That's a sort of temple, non-Christian, that incorporates different statues, right? You'll think of the idea of a pantheon of gods, for instance, in Greek or Roman mythology. So here was this concept of this temple laid out with around 30 stone columns, different statues of figures from the Revolutionary War, signers of the Declaration of Independence, and then atop of it, there would be Washington, like on a chariot with horses and stuff, and then there would be this 600-foot obelisk, this thing, rising from the center of the temple. Which brings us to point number 3. What's an obelisk? Why an obelisk? We don't have an obelisk for Lincoln. We don't have Martin Luther King obelisk. So what gives? One is true that George Washington was a Freemason, and you see some of these sorts of symbols in other Masonic architecture, sure, but an obelisk is a very old design. It dates all the way back to builders in ancient Egypt who referred to it as a tekhenel, and this is usually found at the entrance or associated with temples. Again, ancient temples. We're talking ancient religion. I mean, we're not talking like eldritch, Lovecraftian, Cthulhu stuff. Age of man, for sure, but age of ancient civilization. Boom. Number 4. Okay,
What I'm going to do now is get to the meat of this. I'm going to try to explain one of the perspectives for how minds work, which has become, I'd say, ascendant in the study of minds. So the people who work on the leading edges of AI, if you read a story about an AI doing something special, this is the way that most people think about this. So it may be wrong, and parts of it probably are, but I want to remove some of the fear you may have by removing some of the unknown. Now, H.P. Lovecraft, famous turn-of-the-century American horror writer, said something, I'm paraphrasing, that fear is the strongest human emotion and fear of the unknown is the strongest of those. So I think part of the reason why we're afraid of AI in the future is that we don't understand.
Destination unknown, double-cross messenger, all alone. Can't get no